So this is me a few years ago, working in Australia in a construction job. And very soon after this photo, my back kind of gave up. I had a bit of an accident, and it was kind of at that moment where I thought, I don't want to be doing this type of work any longer. So I made a decision to throw everything into a tech career, but I knew that in order for me to get there, I was going to have to create some changes within my life to help me study and achieve my CCNA. That's what I want to talk about. So yeah, there I was, coming to Australia, thinking about what to do, thinking about maybe we should go travelling in the camper van, all that sort of stuff. Found myself working in construction at the age of 30. Not something I really planned on doing, but I thought, you know what, I'm making a bit of money. And then, like I said, had an accident and my back was, just really bad. Ended up having surgery, and I was thinking, you know what, actually, at this age, maybe I should really think about throwing all my effort into something that's a bit more enjoyable and interesting for me long term, which was becoming a network engineer. Now, I left the construction job obviously because my back was as fragile as a pane of glass, and then stepped into insurance. Again, not a technical role, but those are the periods of time where I actually started really studying towards becoming a network engineer. And I want to talk about the conditions that I set upon myself to create this environment where I could study full time as my actual job, whilst alongside my actual job, if that makes sense. These are the sorts of things you don't really hear about. People, how they actually do it. These are the things that I think kept me on track, which are not related to the sort of study material or anything that you're studying, but the things sort of that are outside of that. The first thing, CCNA is going to be a lot of desk work. You're going to be sat at a desk, reading, watching, doing, typing, writing notes. So I needed to create a space where that space, for the next 6-7 months, the sole purpose of that space was CCNA. And I basically got a desk for like $20 off Facebook Marketplace. Some girl was using it as a makeup desk. I got a better chair. I gave it a fresh lick of paint, and I cleared all the crap off it. No distractions, no rubbish, just pure CCNA focused desk space. And having a dedicated space just felt like that. It just felt like I meant business when I was sitting down. I was like, okay, yeah, clean, tidy space to start nailing the next chapter of my CCNA studies. So that is underrated, but you should seriously consider creating a space for your studies. We don't all have the luxury of a office. We don't all have the luxury of a really big bedroom or anything. But if you can just create a space, even if it's a temporary space whilst you're working, where there's no distractions, the only things there are for studying, it helps. It really helps. The next thing that I did was I was working in an insurance job after the construction saga, and I actually managed to negotiate some working from home. And what I was doing is I got so efficient at my insurance job. I was actually doing really well, hitting all my targets, doing way better than what they expected me to do. I was actually using free time to just do a bit of CCNA study. So I was utilizing the time that I had at home to keep on top of some CCNA studies. And we don't all work from home, but a lunch break, an afternoon break, a morning break, those could add up to maybe an hour, like for the day. That's potentially a podcast of 40 minutes learning about spanning tree, learning about OSPF. It might be a half an hour quiz designed by Claude or ChatGPT on wireless security. Those things are massive when you add them up over a week. And if you can fit them into your day job, hey, you're gonna make progress. You just are. The next thing that I took seriously was the body. 3 key things about the body. One was alcohol. Nah, wasn't interested in it. 2 free beers on a Wednesday night meant I wasn't going to be taking anything in on a Thursday. The next thing was fitness. And I'm just going to say running or walking. Pretty much every day or every other day. I would do around about 2 to 3 hours of study after my insurance day job. More like 2 hours really. And then I found the most successful times were if I went for a run afterwards. I would come back through the door and things that weren't actually making sense just seemed to make sense. Like, I don't know, the run just was a good way of bringing it all together and unwinding at the same time. Now, if you can do that, walking, going to the gym, whatever, but it really, really did help. Thirdly, sleep. I did have some late nights studying for the CCNA, and yeah, that's just part of it. However, unnecessarily late nights and not enough sleep just put you behind. They just put you behind, and they can be the difference between having a successful day the next day and not. Alcohol, fitness, and sleep. 3 key areas when you're doing a CCNA. The next thing I want to talk about is a notebook. This notebook has been one of the smallest yet most significant improvements to my efficiency since I bought it. I use this notebook to hold me accountable every single day, mostly Monday to Friday now, but every single day when I was studying CCNA, and give me structure to the day. Now, we all write study plans, we can all ask ChatGPT and Claude, give me a study plan, blah, blah, blah. And we fall off. We just fall off. Unless you're incredibly, incredibly disciplined and there's not a lot going off in your life, you fall off. Things crop up, family, kids, whatever. I just use this to write 3 things that I want to accomplish, because 3 things is manageable. And often, people write loads of things and they just don't get them done. 3 things, and I cross them out, and that's the 3 things that I want to achieve that day. For the CCNA studies, it would have been something like complete 1 chapter of CBT nuggets, which may have been on layer 2 switching. And then it would have also been do a 1-hour lab, read my notes on subnetting or IP addressing from the previous day for 40 minutes. And I would literally cross each one off and know that I have achieved 3 things that day. I just find when you take a step back away from the computer, and actually put pen to paper, it's a little bit more meaningful. That helps me in my day job every single day. What do I want to achieve today? Write it down. At the end of the day, have I done it? Have I not? So yeah, get the notebook. The next one was actually stepping into the network engineering community space, the CCNA space, through LinkedIn. This also helped me become more accountable, because I was announcing the projects and what I had learned on LinkedIn. Every single post I've done on LinkedIn, whether it's to do with something technical from a day job or going back to something to do with CCNA, the one that gets thousands and thousands and thousands of impressions and hundreds of comments is always CCNA. It's amazing how many people are studying CCNA who are active on LinkedIn. Don't just think they're all people who are CCIEs. They're not. A lot of people are thinking about doing it who are on LinkedIn. So the more you post and show your progress, it one will give you some great feedback. You'll be able to network with other people, share what you've learned, and it will hold you accountable as well, because you're on that journey. You started to post. People will want to see what other stuff you're posting and what other stuff you're getting up to. Announce what your next plans are for your home lab or what you're studying on LinkedIn, and you'll have to follow it up with a post. And it's great to see that progress in a community like that. So posting on LinkedIn is another great thing to get into whilst doing CCNA. A really important thing I'm going to say now is obsession. You have to make it your main job. You have to act like this is your main job, even if you have a main job. I wasn't even in a tech role when I was studying my CCNA. I was working in the insurance role. However, that didn't stop me going to the server rack and looking at all the switches and routers that we had in there, looking at how they're connected, just looking at the access points within the office, seeing how this architecture is set up, just taking an interest. People would be hovering over my shoulder, looking at the ARP table on my computer, asking me what the hell I was doing. But you have to become obsessed with it. So that meant the podcasts on the way to work, the podcasts on the way back from work, the YouTube videos about, network engineering, what it's like, different topics on the CCNA. Yeah, every spare bit of time I had was directed towards achieving that certification. And that level of obsession will beat talent any day of the week. So yeah, get obsessed with it. Treat it like your main job. And after all of that, I still failed the CCNA. So have I just contradicted this video? No. I failed the CCNA. I failed the exam. I did it at home first time round. And you know what? Sometimes you just have a bad day. Sometimes you just have a bad exam. And it doesn't matter how much prep you've done. Things might just not go your way. But because I'd created the conditions for success, in my opinion, I was able to take a step back and then lock back in straight away and retake the test. I think it was like a week later, and I passed. So I just want you to know that even when you do everything right, you can still face failure, but you just get back on the horse and try again, and you will get there. If if it is your main goal, you will get it. Nobody asks you for a job interview, how many times did you fail CCNA? They just ask you if you've got it. And you know what? Now I'm working as I work as a network operations engineer. I'm often out in the field, troubleshooting devices, or I'm back in the NOC, monitoring the network and troubleshooting from there. And I'm studying new certifications, but I always think if anyone ever asks me which one are you most proud of, it will always be the CCNA, because I just look back and think I just gave it everything and I wanted it so badly. So yeah, that's sort of the conditions that I set for myself whilst going through CCNA. I made the decision when I was on that building site and my back was broken that I'm going to go in a direction which is more enjoyable, I can do for the long term, and just requires hard work but in a different kind of way. And those things I talk about, the desk and the notebook and the sort of running and looking after yourself, they're not going to stop you from having to do hours and hours of theory about subnetting. They just, like I said, create the conditions so that you can do it for hours and you will take it in and you will be as sharp as what you can be. Right, if you want more on what the job actually looks like, of someone doing it, I'm going to be bringing some more videos out for that, so subscribe. I just did a video on the CCNA, how it's got a new exam coming up in 2027 and whether you should wait or do the old one, the current one. Yeah, watch that, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy.